Let's see. We should be live. Let's see if that is true. I got the loading screen on, so that gives me a go ahead and start posting stuff. That's good. We'll see where that takes us from here in a moment. We should be having a screen flip over here in a moment. Let's see if that's happened yet or not. Nope, not quite yet. So we're just going to tally on, assuming that our computer is going to wake up and feed this moment to the future. And then we'll get into it here. I am almost ready to go. I bet I'm yammering at a screen right now. I am yammering at a screen right now. Lucky me. All right, so it sounds like I'm coming through A-OK nice and loud. I'm going to drop that volume down here, and we're going to get to work. So I don't want to be muted. I just want to be super quiet there, and my main volume control here at 30. We're good to go. All right. So, hey, my name is Theurgy. I create role-playing games. I illustrate them and publish them online. And we have been focusing our attention on Dungeons and Dragons. Hold on, I'm checking to see if this is working right. Yeah, okay, great. So I make games, I illustrate them, I publish them online. I've been making an adventure for Eberron using 5th edition. It'll publish on the DMsGuild. And if you want to follow me, like, subscribe, bell icon. I'm on the X Twitter platform at Phil Kearney. Here's the like, here's the subscribe. Here is the previous playlist of all 260 some odd episodes before. Here's a slew of books that I've made before. Check them out if you think they're cool. Thank you. And so we have been building this Sinkhole map. I've talked about it a number of times. Hole in the ground, undead crawl out of it, come at the party kills them, they go away, and then you sally forth. So it's an optional combat encounter. And that adds a little bit of flavor and narrative about the space that the characters are exploring, which is in the Carnwood of Karnath, on the continent of Corvair, on Eberron. The Emerald Claw cultists are performing a ritual with an artifact to create an artificial manifest zone that connects to the plane of Mabar, which is the home of undead and things that go bump in the dark. If they sustain the manifest zone long enough, it creates unnatural plants and terraforms the region where it is summoned. So there's an old necromancy research facility that's been buried underneath the Carnwood that the cultists are aware of. They have access to this artifact. They go to the facility and they perform the ritual that creates the manifest zone. And sure enough, they've been sustaining it for weeks. It's terraforming the environment around them. They had to kidnap some folks for some rudimentary sacrifice to keep the ritual going until it stabilizes and completes. The team finds out about it, shows up at the end of the ritual to shut it down, save the kidnapped culty victims, and save the day. There you go. So there's a number of optional encounters to pad it out. It's a three-act adventure. Each act is framed by how close to the source of the manifest zone the team gets. And so they could beeline it from start to end, probably in 2 sessions. They could start in the final dungeon as a standalone session, or they could use all of the additional optional material that we're creating to pad it out to like maybe 60 hours of gameplay. Start at 6th level and end at 8th or 9th. So the terraforming process that occurs inside of a manifest zone, it starts here by depleting the soil of any living essence. And then as the atmosphere within the manifest zone continues to draw from its home plane, it brings in more and more elements, as it were, from its plane to the Carnwood. So the soil dries out, it turns into like a coffee grind kind of texture substance that is host to all sorts of alien plant life. Some of it is poisonous and dangerous. Others just simply unusual. But hopefully it will provide an interesting space for the team to explore inside of. We've had 3 DMs running this as a playtest, and so far the only complaint we had was that the final boss battle was too complicated. So we've spent a week or so here. We've simpled it down. So now I'm working on the conclusion and the alternate plot hooks. And once those are resolved, we should have a document that's ready for layout. We still have, I think, four of these smaller maps to do. They won't be. This is the largest of those maps, or the most detailed, anyway. So the next four more, should be a lot easier to flow through. The gazebo, the tree of woe, and the worn paths. Those are. Oh yeah, and then the forest. We need at least one, probably 2 forest maps. So that sounds like 5 maps total. But this again, this one is by far the most intense to create. And the forest can't be that. I was about to say it can't be that difficult, but it isn't that difficult. It's just some trees in a forest. Simple enough. Very straightforward. The gazebo is the size of this map, so it won't require much fidgeting. Tree of Woe is similar. We're building this large environment here. So we have a template base environment that we can drop the other maps onto as a base plate. Place. This stuff takes a while to fill. It takes a while. So I'm going to press pause there. I'm going to drop down over here, and I'm going to hit these flagstones here. Let's go top side. Nope. Profile. grave. Clean that up a touch. There's a little bit of gap. Mind the gap. Do. Good. Doing the same thing for this. It doesn't have to be 100% because we're going to erase a good chunk of it for texturing anyway. We're just trying to get a general mix of this stuff. And it's only on horizontal surfaces. These crystals don't accumulate very easily on vertical surfaces because the goop of it just kind of slides off and hits the ground. That's why I'm not being really careful about locking all these things in together. There, like that. Let's tap this stuff out. There. Just tapping this stuff in, you can see that there's like little spots of grit that get left over. It's that grit that we want. Because grittiness is what this place is like. That feels pretty good. That technically makes the profile done. And then the inside. You can do like this. You can just hit these patterns. Good. All right, and that takes care of that. We'll need to add in the gritty bits. The Vulpina and all the different plants. We'll add those after we finish doing the ground texture. Burp, burp, burp. That's my 20-minute timer to make sure I don't fall into any tangents or stray into any weirdness for too long. Inside's good. Profile's good. These are all good. All right. So this map is other than the floor templates tokens. This is done, and this is done. Weirdness going on. Thank you. All right, now that tangent's done, we're going to go back to this. So I'm going to fill in this area here. edges, and then we're going to fill them in. And as we fill in, we're going to let the crystals get larger. But the reason why I'm blocking this like this is because I wanted to have a clean line of separation from the puddle templates that we got here. So once we have all these negative spaces filled in, we'll go back in and we can hit all these across there to fill that in so that we don't need to have these watermarks in place. Yeah, it's a little time consuming, but I feel like it's worth it. I enjoy the process. It's very much coloring, it's very much like a coloring book here, where I'm just filling in stuff. Well, hey, what's going on? You are Gaddy Pie. What up? How you making today? I hope you're doing well. I am doing fantastic. I appreciate you asking. Yeah, we're doing some stippling here. We've been making an environmental map for Dungeons and Dragons adventure here. It's top view. This is on the surface, and you can see the profile here dropping down into the sinkhole here that leads to this interior space. This token that I created, it's a living grave. Basically, it's like an ooze that generates additional undead that'll spit out and attack your team. So 5 foot space per square. Undead gets basically is spawned from the living grave. 5 foot gap. Can easily reach the edge here and just climb out, and then the DM can have any number of undead rising out of the living grave. It's a mass grave that basically got animated by necromantic powers that are saturating the environment. So until the players go down and destroy the spawner, the living grave, it's kind of like in Gauntlet. There's these monster generators. And monsters would come out of these generators until you destroy them, and then there wouldn't be any more monsters. And you'd have to go throughout the game of Gauntlet, destroying all these generators as they came up, so you could progress through the map without being attacked. This is that same idea. This is in the area around a necromancy research laboratory, so naturally there's shitloads of dead bodies. And they're all buried, and there's no record as to where the mass graves were buried at. So anywhere the land opens up, undead can just pour out of it, which becomes just an opportunity for the DM to throw random encounters at the team anywhere they want and have an origin for it so they can shut it down for the time being. There's a wide mix of different type of undead, demonic type creatures, and living sentient. Oops, it looks like my system just locked up, so I'm going to hit save. I have to close that real quick. Here's the cover that we made. You always make your cover first, so that if you wait for your cover to be at the end, then you'll end up regretting your book cover being the reason why you can't publish your thing yet. So you always want to get the cover out of the way first, so it can frame the excitement of like what it is that you're building. Yeah, I'm building this adventure. It's called Crystals of Mabar. Here's the book cover. It'll publish on blah blah blah, like that stuff. Like I'm hoping this will publish in November or October. I would love for it to be finished in September when the Player's Handbook comes out, but I don't want to have unrealistic expectations about how quickly I can finish this. Though most of the illustrations that are in the book are going to be the tokens and the actual maps themselves that are all mostly done. But there'll still be a bunch of little spot illustrations like 1/8 page, 1/6 pages, maybe a quarter page here and there. We'll see how the book ends up laying out, but we'll do some of the layout here online. Layouts is kind of like editing, and where you just kind of go over the same thing over and over and kind of nudge things around until they sit properly. And that's not necessarily a talkie space. I've been an illustrator for, where's my music? I've been an illustrator for the past 20 some odd years, so it's really easy for me to be able to push pixels and talk at the same time. Oh, looks like I reached the end of my list. So let's go ahead and fire this up. I use Epidemic Music. I really enjoy their platform. There, we'll drop this back down to here. And what you got going on? Well, hey, Karen, it's good to see you. How's Eberron Spelljammer stuff coming along? It's, I mean, the Spelljammer book published already. So, and we're working on 3 more right now on the side. But here's the Spelljammer Combat and Exploration down on DMsGuild. Apparently, it's gotten some good reviews. It's a silver status. Maybe have like 80 more sales before it's Electrum bestseller. But it ended up being 107 pages, and it is a thick boy, full of art. And this has more art in it than any other book that I've created before, and it's everything that I want it to be. There's a couple editing errors that I've been able to find. So once I complete one of, there's a subclass book that I'm building. There's a Mecha Titan type book that I'm building. And then we're also building an alternate fleet combat encounter in Doomspace. All 3 of those will be publishing on DMsGuild. But yeah, this book turned out pretty good. And check it out if you want to. It's right here in the description. And the Eberron adventure, obviously, that's what we are working on right here, right now. Thanks for asking. Hey, Karen, what's shaking? Yeah, all I gotta do is like 7,000 more stipples, and this area will be done, and then we'll be able to cash that out. And once we have this grit area completed, we have these tokens for like razor wire, razor vines. You can see here is the crystal, the crystal soil. This will be a moss sort of stuff. These are like little dandelion sort of things, and this is a greenish glowing moss. So we'll colorize these next, turn them into tokens, and then we can scatter them around these top side view maps. And then we'll be able to keep this for other top side maps that we'll be building. And this larger plate here becomes a 20 by 20 ground template that we can just tile. If I do a good job making this so it has enough chaos and a mix of chaos and pattern. Tiles need to have enough variety that you don't immediately see the pattern, but be uniform enough that they can be patterned. It sounds like a paradox, and it is. It is the paradox of tiles. Not quite as cool as the riddle of steel, but it has its own nuances. But yeah, and there can be these little gaps because like you can see down here, like we have all these little cutaways and little cutouts of where crystal is or isn't accumulating, and it kind of gives it a chaotic look overall, which was the intention that we wanted. Here's a 5-foot scale, so you're most likely going to be like looking at this map on a VTT like around this space. So it's pretty easy to see the grid lines, and the texture is enough to make it interesting, and these are obstacles. Like you can see here, like these little monument stones that are standing 10 feet tall. They create obstacles that can be climbed on. And the language that we've been using for these is that they don't have crystals on their surface, so that they can remain differentiated between actual ground that has this coffee grit all over it and walls and structures that are above, that aren't just default surface to walk on. So, hey, good on you. Well, I mean, I've been hammering away at this book for. I mean, I put the book I put this basically on a year hiatus while I was focusing on the Spelljammer book, and Stuart and Andy, my editor and co-writer respectively, have been very, very generous in allowing me the time that I needed to do things the way that I think I need to do them. But these little vignette maps that we're doing right now are, and there's a couple more creature tokens that we need to do, but otherwise, the art, the player assets, the game assets, all the visual assets to actually run the game in a tabletop, VTT, or on your kitchen table. Those are all coming to a completion, and just like with the here, I'll show you real quick. There's an adventure that we have inside of here. You can see it in the free preview. But we for all these rules that we made, we have a conversion guide for Light as Araxis. Let's get through the monsters and the random system generator. Right, converting Light as Araxis. This is a 25-page guide that basically breaks down the ships that you're aboard, different ships that you fight during different encounters, all the NPCs that are aboard the different ships that you are on, the weapon icons to represent damages and stuff. Here's your ship, here's a map. That map is inside of this map. This map zooms into this map here. So there's various maps that we're looking at. All these, again, more NPC tokens, ship tokens, everything that you need to make this adventure work, and I spell it out and visualize it. But all of these creature tokens and stuff, these are all actual gameplay pieces that are on the maps inside the adventure. Like if you are aboard the Second Wind, here are the NPCs that are on the Second Wind with you, and they're also the tokens that you would have on your playmat. So all these tokens do a ton of work in filling in visual information about the adventure. Like I built this adventure without having to make any additional illustrations at all. It's all just tokens, ship maps, system maps, encounter maps, and setups. So a lot of visual variety, but it's all technical information. But the way that it's built as a visual thing, it makes it look interesting. So there's a wide variety of activity. Like there's a lot of eye candy that's floating around on these pages without me actually having to make any additional illustrations. So I'm going to start with this attitude of filling in the gaps with tokens and map environment. And then, like you can see here, this bottom of the page was empty, so I just put in space blurble. For the Eberron adventure, I'll be able to make little scenes and stuff like here's a scene, and like here's a scene, and like all these different scenes that you can have. Those will be the little filler pieces, like corner pieces, stop gaps, stuff like that. Which we'll do all here on stream once we get to them. I have to get done with the layouts. To get done with the layouts, I have to finish the end of the book. So we're working on. Currently, I'm working on the conclusion and the alternate the alternate plot hooks that will lead the character into this adventure. Those are the things that I'm currently working on right now. Stuart, my editor, is doing some cleanup on the monster stat blocks, and at that point, we're going to be ready to start doing layout. So I'm hoping after the July 4th weekend, I will officially be on layout for this book. And the cool thing is that I can continue making maps for this stuff while I'm doing the layouts. because it's going to take a while for me to do that. And if like all these optional encounter things are at the end of each of the sections, each act. There's 3 acts, and the optional encounters at the end of each act. And so once I finish this map, I'm going to work on the forest map in Act 2, and by the time I get that finished, we should be working on the layouts of the book for Act 1 and Act 2. And by the time I get those layouts done, the maps for Act 3 should be done, and I can just start filling those in place as well. And so it's feasible we could have a November launch. I doubt, I'd love October. September would be amazing, but I don't assume I'm going to be efficient enough to get them done that fast. So if I can have this done by November, I will feel accomplished. And then I can, I'll be able to focus on all the other books. I won't be doing another adventure probably for a year or so, while I finish all the other books I've been working on. The 3 Spelljammer supplements, complementary supplements to the supplement that I already built. The martial power system, revising the color mana spell point variant rules for MTG campaigns. And then from there, I might be venturing out into 5e content to place on DMsGuild. It'll be more of a universal D20 sort of stuff that I'll be working on for a little while. I'm playtesting new game design ideas at my home table right now, and so far they're panning out really, really well. So I'm going to keep pushing at that stuff at my home table, and if it does prove itself to be narratively complex enough to be able to frame a number of different types of adventures, and the team retains excitement for showing up each week using, it's very system light. It's basically just ability checks. It's like the entire role-playing game engine is built around ability checks. That's it. Very simple D20s plus a couple modifiers, and the rest of it's just framing. But a round of combat is a single action plus like a movement or like an object interaction, and then you're on to the next person. So it's very fast round turnover. It's so fast that you can just stay in initiative the entire, like we've had 20 sessions now, and 16. We've had 16 sessions now, and we've maintained initiative through every adventure. We'll just randomly roll adventure at the beginning of a session, and then we'll just stick with that initiative for the entire session, and everyone just gets into this tempo of it's my turn, 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 and it's group side initiative. In this system, the thing that I'm talking about right now, this ability check system, it doesn't have a name yet, but basically, if you there's a target number you have to roll with your modifiers on a d20, and if you hit the number, depending on how far above the number that you get determines how successful you are. Kind of like stat consequences. It ratchets every 3 points. So like from a range of 0 to 30 for a challenge rating of 0, which means you don't have to try, you just automatically succeed. And 30, which is like on a scale of 1 to 10, a 30 is like a 10, as in like nearly impossible. So the level of the characters right now are incapable of hitting that impossible die roll of 30, or difficulty on a scale of 1 to 10, a 10 out of 10 difficulty. They can't get there yet. They're not high enough levels. They will get there eventually. So the difficulty stacking system seems to work, but depending on how far above the target number you get, determines on how many degrees of success you register. And so like hit points is basically just degrees of failure. Like if you have 5 hit points, you can take up to 5 degrees of failure before your character drops, for instance. It's like if you're fighting a challenge 6 monster, it takes 6 successes to end that monster as a threat. So if you can roll 18 above the die roll, like above the target number, if you can roll 18 above the target number, you can deal 6 damage to that creature in one go. If you fail the die roll, you don't deal any damage, and it retaliates against you. So every time you fail your die roll, depending on how badly you fail the die roll, on a scale of 1 to 10, in degrees of 3, 0, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30. Divisible by 3 is something that's ingrained into humans at a fairly early age. So being able to parse out, if I rolled a 17, what degree of success is that? It's 5, because it's not 18. It's higher than 15. It's less than 18. That puts it between 5 and 6. That means the degree of success I had when I rolled that 17 is 5. If I'm fighting a DC 15 threat, I just scored 1 success because it's above 15. So 16, 17, 18 would be 1 success, 19, 20, 21 would be 2 successes, etc. If the target number is 15 and I rolled a 13, 13 is above 12, it's less than 15, that's 1 degree of failure. So like I would have taken a point of damage, and if I only have 5 hit points, that's pretty significant. You basically have 5 hit points per level, and there's only there's level 0, and then there's 5 actual levels. So there's like 6 degrees. So your character ends up like a super high level character in this game format only has 30 hit points. That's the maximum amount of hit points you would have. So like if your target number is 30 and somehow you rolled a 0 with penalties, you would take, that'd be a degree of failure by 10, which would mean that character would take 10 points of damage. You would have to, but it's so difficult. I mean, but you're using 5e scaling, right? D20 plus your proficiency modifier plus your ability modifier, and then occasionally you get to roll a skill die or an effort die, which is going to be a D4 at first level, and it's going to ramp up to a D12 at 5th rank or 5th level. So eventually it'll be like a D20 plus 6 plus 4 plus D12. With really good stats and rolls, you could get up like around 40 something. So you could get, even if your degree, even if the difficulty is a 10 out of 10, nearly impossible, you can still roll like around 40. So you can still, even with a difficulty of 30 tasks, you can still score 3 or 4 hits, which is great because a difficulty 10 monster has 10 hit points. And so if you were to roll a 40, you'd have to roll that like basically 4 times to be able to kill off that monster. But instead of dealing damage to your team, damage is a complication. Every time you fail, you create a complication. Everyone on the team goes, because it's group initiative. So everyone on the team goes, and then after everyone else is gone, the DM, basically the world has a turn. So whatever the DM feels is appropriate as far as like new hazards, new threats, or just attacking the characters in general. The DM basically has 1 or 2 things that the DM will do during the world's turn, and then it becomes all the players' turn, and they go through all their stuff again. But the chaos of it comes from when the team fails a die roll, because it creates a complication. You'll either, like if you're attacking something and you fail the die roll, the complication is that creature retaliates and hits you for damage. Like you failed your roll, you don't have an armor class check or anything, you already did your check, you failed your die roll. That means that you're going to take damage, or you're going to create an entirely new threat. Like if I failed a challenge by 3 degrees, I could either deal 3 points of damage to that character, 3 points of damage to all of the characters, or I could create an entirely new threat that is a challenge of 3, which means you only need a die roll of 9 or better. But if you don't make any die rolls to resolve it, it gets added to the world's turn. So as you create more complications, you have more stuff that the DM can do at the end of your turn. So the team needs to break up their action economy to get rid of threats, so they're not dealing with as much stuff at a time. If there's no complications on the board, generally the DM only needs 1 update. Like we'll only have one action to take, like a trap triggers or a monster attacks you or whatever, and they have that 1 die roll. They have that 1 action that the team responds to. Everyone makes a defense check on the team, which is basically like a saving throw. And the people that succeed the saving throw on an attack like this, they'll be able to resist whatever the effect is. And anyone that fails a die roll gets a new complication added. So your actions can create complications. And then at the end of everyone else's turn, the DM has a chance to create a complication or to damage somebody as well. So it's a really fast turnover, and there's no die rolls. Like the DM is interrupting what the players are doing, like basically with like opportunity attacks. But there's no additional die rolls. The die roll was already made, and that's what caused the opportunity attack or the complication. And the DM is just narrating to you, here's your complication, take 2 points of damage. Or here's your complication, minions showed up, 3 minions showed up, and they only have combined as a squad. They're only a difficulty of 2, so you only have to roll a 6 or above. But you have to use your action economy to do something about it, because if you ignore them, they're going to deal 2 damage to either you, the whole team, or a portion of the team. Or they could grow into a larger complication because you've been ignoring them. So the players are the only ones that roll dice. When they fail, it automatically triggers a consequence that the DM can use as a new narrative tool to add additional complications, but you aren't rolling any additional dice during these spontaneous fits of failure. So it's a very fast, fluid game. And so we have anywhere from 3 to 5 players any session, and like we can get through anywhere from 10 to 20 rounds of activity between everyone, and we can generally get through a full adventure in like a 4-hour block of time. With the team, basically at this point, we have anywhere from 40 to 80 rounds of activity during a 4-hour adventure one shot. And so we clean that up, and we go through the things, and the consequences happen, and then the adventure is over, and the result of that adventure creates new complications that create new adventure nuggets. So inside the adventure, the team is creating complications when they fail. Outside of the adventure, whatever the results of their activities were in the adventure creates new complications. That creates a new default, basically on a scale of 1 to 5. The adventure would be level 1 to 5, or it'd be a complication on a scale of 1 to 10. So first level characters can take on threats that have a difficulty of 3, 4, 5, and 6. And like third, it would be like 5, 6, 7, 8. And 5th rank characters would have a threat of 7, 8, 9, and then caps at 10. So there's basically a scale of 1 to 4 that remains like 20th level characters in D&D can roll basically between 22 and 30 is normally the pocket of die rolls that they can get on ability checks. They can fail horribly, but on average it's going to be between 22 and 30, which is the range of 7 to 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. So the team, as they gain levels, are naturally their proficiencies and ability modifiers and their effort dice naturally grow in time with how you expect the ability check system in 5e to work from level 1 to 20. But instead of having 20 levels, there's only 5 ranks. So it's a lot less granular than what D&D is, and you progress through characters quicker. So it's a more fast, light, loose system by design. But so far, it's been very improvised. Like the characters don't carry a lot of equipment. There's not a lot of statistics. They can pick up and do things. Like there's no proficiencies with weapons and stuff like that. If you can do it, you can do it. It's all just a simple die roll, but you explain what you do the die roll, and then you're done, and you move on to the next thing. It's all theater of the mind. We only use a map if it's a visually complicated environment that they're in. And differences between characters, like expressing characters as classes. There are classes, but for the most part, it's just differentiating between how effective are you at interacting with persons, places, and things. Basically, you can observe things and you can interact with things. You could observe creatures, you could observe environments, you can observe objects or relics, or artifacts or machines. Like these are things, right? And then You can observe them to try to understand them, or like seek insight or information about what their purpose or intentions are. And then there's interacting. So you can observe and you can interact. So you can interact with persons, as in like having conversations, which can be like diplomacy, intimidate, and deception. You can interact with environments, which is like exploring space, or like getting the lay of the land, hunting, survival, tracking, stuff like that. And then you can interact with things, which is like figuring out how objects work, or like firing a gun, for instance, or like using an object, disarming a trap, deciphering runes. These are object interactions. And then in combat, you can lean into, like, so each character class has a specialization towards observations and interacting with either persons, places, or things. Like diplomats are really have a lot of bonuses to interacting with creatures, while like an artificer is really good at engaging with things, and like a ranger is really good at interacting with environment. So you just delineate. So we're delineating different character types between their observation and interaction. Like you can have like the races. We have 3 races currently in this campaign, which are dwarves, gnomes, and warforged. Warforged gain bonuses to interact with things. Dwarves get bonuses to interact with environments. Gnomes get bonuses to interact with creatures. The explorer gets advantages for interacting with environments. So a dwarven explorer has both advantages on observing and interacting with environments. And in combat, if you're framing your attacks or your strategy around, I'm going to use my environment to like kick up dirt or something to distract this foe. Like that would be an environment interaction. So a dwarf would be really good at doing that. Saying at the same token, I could take out an axe and I can just make an attack with it, or I could, like if I'm a diplomat, I can focus on, I can see there's a weakness in this person. They're favoring their left leg, so I'm going to use that as my creature interaction to gain additional bonus to make my attack. So when you make attacks, you can use objects. Like I'm going to, I know this, like how the sighting on my gun works. Like I've adjust the sighting on my gun, so I have a more precise shot. So I can use my interaction with objects as a means of gaining bonuses to my attack roll. And so basically, if you could narrate and BS your way into how you're using your distinct noun interactions or observations to give you leverage, then you're using the system correctly. You should do that, because anyone that fails creates complications that everyone has to deal with. And you don't have a lot of hit points. So if you really get tilted, you're going to die quickly. But it only takes 2 minutes to make a new character. It takes 2 minutes to make a character. It's so great. So this system is turning out just to be an absolute banger. And if it continues to perform, and if I can find a way to create different types of adventure. Like we've been doing a lot of dungeon spelunking, and that's turning out really, really well. Dungeon delving and adventuring is absolutely crackerjack with this system. But the next encounter, the next adventure that we have next session is the team in Fightercraft, chasing and battling space monsters in their asteroid fields where they're trying to mine. The miners are threatening to strike if the team can't lock down and protect the perimeter of the territory that they're in, so that while they're mining, they aren't attacked. Because like they get a mine, they're gonna have to focus on that. They can't watch their back. That's what the fighter craft are for. So the team are taking on the role of fighter pilots to engage with space monsters that are threatening the miners, and that'll be our next adventure on Monday. And if that goes well, then we can. I've been playing with ideas for espionage missions, And I've got a decent diplomacy mission challenge framework that I'll talk about here sooner than later. So that's probably going to be my first non-5e product that I publish on ttrpg. But it's such a light, easy system that it can be used with 5e and Pathfinder and Cypher System and Powered by the Apocalypse. All these D20 higher result games can all use the same game engine that I'm creating, so I can make variants like the guild system or the kingdom system. Like if all you want to do is use this system to role play and determine the effectiveness of like a thieves guild in your 5e campaign, you can do that. Or you can use it to create a colony of AI that are floating in the sky for Numenera, and you can build a set of challenges and an adventure out of that for Numenera, specifically using this mechanic in a very like system-light way. If it's a D20 game that needs a higher result, this will work for it. Works for Pathfinder. You can structure by skill quality, and you can scale the difficulty that you need by Pathfinder standards instead of just open-ended. So it's incredibly versatile. So it's worth testing for a while. And by the time we get ready to build a book out of it, it will be my best project. It's already the most useful thing that I've ever built. Now I'm just kicking the tires and taking it out on the road to see like how much we can actually do with it and make it still stay fun consistently for weeks on end. And once we get to that space, we'll be ready to go to market with it. We'll start play testing for people that have never ran across the system before. I'm thinking about going to Emerald City Comic Con and Pacts West to run some tables, to create some scenarios, and just have people throw some dice with me for a couple hours. So that's the biggest thing that's on my horizon right now. I kind of want to print out a bunch of the Lazaraxis stuff that I've made and create some little resin tokens and go to Emerald City Comic Con to run some fleet combat because I can. I live in Seattle and there's some amazing gaming conventions here, and I've never gone to them because just the press of people. I don't see well, so the press of people can legitimately be intimidating. But if I'm becoming interested in attending these events. Probably because I don't have a physical table, a physical team right now, and I've been wanting physical engagement with actual human players. I love playing online; it's super convenient, but the degree of separation is less than 100% emotionally satisfying. So conventions might be a really good way for me to flesh it out. There's a PaizoCon is here in town. It's been digital the past couple of years, but I'm hoping they go back to physical conventions. But PaizoCon is here, PAX Prime is here, Emerald City Comic Con is here. It's a good place to be. I just need to get myself into a place where I've got stuff to go to conventions with. So once this ability check game starts going into live mode, I can go to all those conventions and I can play it in Pathfinder, I can play it blah blah blah. It doesn't matter. So exciting things are afoot for Phil. Thanks for asking. That was probably more of an answer than you cared for. But it's the answer I had. It got handed to me, so I decided to share. Where are we at right now? It's 7:30. I've still got 20 minutes left. So, can I get this little corner space? Can I get that done in 20 minutes? Let's find out. Signs point to yes. I do art like this in the morning, and then I go into my day job, and so I do artwork like this in the morning, Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. On Mondays, I play D&D with my coworkers, so I don't stream on Monday. But at Monday night, I jump on and I stream Spelljammer ship design or adventure production or whatever it is I'm working on. That's on Mondays and Thursday nights, including tonight, later on. I also have on Tuesdays and Friday lunchtime, including tomorrow, I do Martial Powers system development, the Martial Magic system for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. That complements the color mana spell point variant rules that I created, but also stands alone as a universal point system, kind of like Key or Battle Masters. And then on Wednesday lunchtime, like yesterday, I do subclass design for Spelljammer using the mechanics that we built. And so we finished the Rogue and the Fighter yesterday. We already finished the Barbarian, Bard, and Artificer. I'm procrastinating the Cleric because I want to see what other subclasses have a higher priority in mechanical expression that trumps the Cleric. So I'm going to do the Cleric last. But oh yeah, and we finished the Monk too. Jesus. So we'll be working on Paladin and Ranger next week. And then we'll do the Sorcerer and the Wizard. And then Warlock and Druid. And then finish with the Cleric. And that'll be all 13 subclass. That'll be all 13 classes with a new Spelljammer subclass. And then we can make our book cover and then do the layouts and the artwork and then put it on DMsGuild for like $5 and bundle it with the Spelljammer book that I showed you guys earlier. So I'll drop the cost down to like $2 for the subclass book, and the Spelljammer book is $20. We discount it down to $15. So it ended up being $25 worth of book between the two of them that you can bundle together for $17. So that's going to give you like a 20% discount. And then we finished. Then we can finish the Warforged and Machines book. The Vokath Fleet Battle will be finished by then as well. That'll be like a $5 book that will bundle down to $2. So $30 for $19. And then we have the Asteroid tokens, which we can put out for $4 and then offer for $1. So it'll be $34 worth of books for $20. That's a decent discount. That's like a 40% discount. And pulling $20 per sale is good enough for me. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to all of that. And then the Martial Powers book and revising the color mana system. I'm loving everything that I'm seeing about the 2024 Player's Handbook so far. All the martial stuff is good. And what we've done with Martial Powers absolutely works with everything that we've seen so far. So I am feeling very confident about moving forward with 5e content. past 2024. Although it might not be a need for me to focus on it. I'll enjoy being able to do so. I'll also be once all the Color Mana stuff is done, the martial powers and the revisions. That'll open the door for me to start building small pieces for my Patreon. Like a Boros Swiftblade subclass would never make any money on DMsGuild. Like, you can't do guild specific stuff or like a theme thing for a campaign. Like I did the Pacts and Patrons of Ravnica was basically a 30-page book with variant rules for different patrons based on the 10 guilds in Ravnica, and like 30 new invocations and 5 new pact boons, and it hasn't made shit. It's cheap, it's gorgeous artwork, and it just absolutely does not sell because it's too niche. It's too specific of a product. It doesn't have, I mean, if people need it, I find that they buy it, but there's not enough people with interest in the Ravnica setting to build books like that. But I love Ravnica setting, and I want to make subclasses or unique spells and character options for all of the cards that are in Magic the Gathering. And but once the Martial Powers book finishes and we update the Color Mana system, we'll literally have a full system for all 13 classes using 5e mechanics with these variant rules. And then I can just start having fun and putting stuff up on my Patreon and throwing out ideas and fucking around. And maybe I'll be able to build some momentum that way for me to 20 years from now retire with grace. Who knows? That's my long-term plan. It's a long shot, so I've got a day job to hedge my bets. I've done all in on business ventures before, and I am a little more cautious now that I'm older. I have less margin for error. Hey, looks like we're gonna get it done, huh? That wasn't so hard. Look at all those gaps being filled. We're doing great here. Bam, we did it. All right, I'm gonna take a celebratory sip of coffee and give it a water chaser. Now we gotta do these gaps. Keep punching through the process. We'll get it all done. Uh-oh. I have all that to do as well. I'm building a base template that I can just use. I can just drop on any map anywhere and have it be all gritty. Shitty and gritty. But I want to leave that in place for now because we're building these frames. Like that. There we go. I have my fits of silence. I'm told if I want to be successful as a VTuber, I need to entertain you every 10 seconds. And I don't think I've done that. That was not the plan that I was aware of. But I am prone to fits of silence for minutes on end. So you got to really be involved. Really got to be into that study hall culture. Interrupted by fits of inanity to really appreciate my channel, I think. Which doesn't bode well for my future. One of the reasons why I stream my art in the first place is because, like, this is mentally exhausting. This is so emotionally and mentally fatiguing. Just inanely click, click, click. But this is the job. Like, this is the job. And I don't want to automate it. Doing things by hand, I think it improves the quality of my art in general, and it provides me a more deep intimate familiarity with the content that I'm producing, which is important to me. The stuff that I build is like meant to be used, and it's meant to be used at virtually like my supplements, all my like character options, they're all meant to be used from level 1 to 20. Because I run campaigns from level 1 to 20. So I mean, I have the opportunity to use the tools that I build at the highest tier of play, and they work. So I mean, that really excites me. A lot of people design content and don't actually use it. And that's like, they may come up with a cool idea, but they don't have any real living ongoing experience with using the stuff that they build. So kind of it can not deliver the way that you think it is, and the people that develop the stuff don't even necessarily even know that it's not executing its objectives because they don't use it. Like, literally everything that I've published I make use of. Except for Nature's Ally. I don't really... That's just a single standalone subclass. I don't personally need to use it much. But all the other stuff that I've made has been used at my table. I like Nature's Ally a lot. It's a cool subclass. But it's an example of another standalone subclass that doesn't really get a lot of traction. It is very, very. It is rewarding to do all this stipple. But again, the streaming helps make sure I show up and get the shit done. This is such a great brush. It's just everything fits together really, really nicely. It's a really well-made organic brush. Like the curvature of it, it all curves together very, very nicely. Filling the gaps. We're definitely not gonna get this all done. But we'll get it done tomorrow. Uh-oh. All right, so I'm going to be on. I'm going to be playing some Beckme tonight at 5 o'clock. It's almost 8 o'clock here now. So in about 9 hours from now, I'm going to be on for a 3-hour session of playing some second level Beckme with Wally DM, AJ Pickett, How to RPG, and I don't know who else is going to show up. But I got tossed into the mix with these dudes, and so I'm excited. I haven't played some Beckme in freaking ever, so I'm looking forward to that. And that'll go from 5 till 8, and then I'm gonna switch gears, jump on, and do some more Spelljammer ship design. We're doing furniture in Vocast Battle Crab right now. Living quarters and living spaces stuff right now. So that's getting close to being completely done as well. So I'm thinking next week, or like probably week of the 4th of July, I'll probably have a playtest for Vocaf's Battle. It's a fleet battle between players and allies and Vocaf versus Star Elves. It's a simple skirmish, but it's a fun battle. Should be a fun battle. So all right, I'm gonna go ahead and cut out now. I could just keep stippling forever. So it's best I stop now, and I'll probably finish off that block tonight, and we'll attack the rest of this stuff tomorrow morning. I'll be back at 5 o'clock to do some Beckme, And then I'll be back after that at 8 o'clock. We'll do some more Spelljammer stuff. I'll be back tomorrow morning to continue with Stippling Grit. And then at lunch tomorrow, we'll be back continuing to work on the martial power system. We're integrating the weapon masteries into the combat masteries that we have in the martial powers book. And then we'll work on the monk some more. So that's what we got going on. And then Saturday, I don't know what we're doing Saturday. Saturday, I've got basically a 4-hour block in the morning for me to do whatever I want with, and I'm not sure how I'm going to spend that time yet. But we'll know when I wake up. So if you want to find out, stick around. Catch me later. Thanks a lot for stopping by, guys. I really appreciate you being here. And anyone else that's new in the future, cheers. See you soon.